Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
It's the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 70. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited for this week's episode. We get our first chance to go in-depth with new Gopher women's basketball coach Dawn Plitzuweit. She took over the program in March and is now formulating the program. We'll find out how the transition has been going, what has surprised her the most, what she's most excited about, and what the future of the program looks like in her vision. You're going to enjoy our conversation. The Go Gopher Podcast episode 70 is presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no cost, no obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. We're also sponsored by Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union here on the Go Gopher Podcast. Affinity Plus is your local credit union throughout the state of Minnesota. They're a big-time Gopher supporter. You can find out more at affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. Our podcast is also brought to you by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at ChamplinInsurance.com. We're podcasting episode 70 from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We invite you to subscribe to the Go Gopher Podcast. You can also go back and listen to previous shows. Last week, for example, we took a deep dive into the Dinkytown Athletes NIL Collective with co-founder Rob Gagg. Go back and listen to that show. It's well worth it. It's been one of our most listened to podcasts so far. This week, it's episode 70, and we're talking Golden Gopher women's basketball with brand new head coach Dawn Plitzuweit, who will join me next.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utek, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
Hi, Gopher fans. Switching is easy. We do it all the time. We switch on lights, we switch TV channels, we switch on the TV. And with the new transfer portal, some college students even switch colleges, which can seem crazy to us diehard fans. But what's not crazy is how you can switch and save with State Farm. In fact, my agency can switch you over so we can start saving today. My team is ready to welcome you to the State Farm neighborhood and show you it is, in fact, easy to switch and save. When you want the real deal, check us out at ChamplinInsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Episode 70 of the Go Gopher Podcast. My pleasure to welcome the new women's basketball coach at the University of Minnesota, Dawn Plitzuweit. 2 years. We'll see what happens in 2 years. 2 months now on the job this week.
Felt busy, and yeah. I think we've gotten quite a bit done, but I don't think we've made it to the 2-year mark and how many things we've gotten done yet in the first 2 months.
2 months in. And it has been, I'm sure, hectic when you're trying to do all that a coach needs to do to establish early on what you need to do, build a roster, establish the culture, buy a house, probably all that stuff, right? Both professionally and personally. So how has the transition been?
Well, it certainly has been busy and it's been fun at the same time. And the most important thing that we have done in the last few weeks has been to really try to spend time with the people, the people who are here, the people in our program, our young ladies that we're coaching, build our coaching staff, recruiting. That's all about the people as well. And whether that's spending time with coaches, and certainly getting young ladies on the phone and getting them here on campus. And, we've added a few young ladies to our roster roster. And so it's been about the people, and then to meet the people who are big supporters of our program. And that honestly hasn't happened as much as we would like it to, but the next few months will be really important in doing that as well. So it's really been about the people. Now we got to work to get settled.
Yeah, because I suppose logistically there are things that you have to do just to, like I said, whether it's buying a house, moving offices, all that, but then recruiting, then you have to worry about the people who are already have their feet on the ground here to connect with them, right?
Right. That's really the people who are here are the most important people, and so everything else has kind of been pushed to the sideline, if you will, a little bit. And now it's getting a little bit nerve-wracking. Like, we probably should buy a house at some point in time. We do need to get that accomplished. We do need to get moved, and it's been convenient. I've been living in an apartment less than a block from campus, so that's been great. The commute to work has been really simple so far, but it'll get a little bit more challenging once we do get settled. But it's been about really building the relationships with the people who are here, and building relationships and hiring staff, and then building relationships with people who are important in our program, and recruits that we want to take a really good hard look and see if we're the right fit for them.
The main staff you brought with you from West Virginia, how important is that just from a stability standpoint, that you're also not having to establish some connection with some of the most important people in the program?
Well, our assistant coaches who were with me at South Dakota and also at West Virginia, they're really a godsend in a lot of ways, a great blessing for me and for our program, because they know how we do things. Mm-hmm. And so when we had 5.5 weeks or so of working out with our team here and with the returners, and so it was incredible because our coaches can take different aspects of what we do as a program and skill development and jump right in and implement it right away and answer questions, and they know the why. They have connections to a lot of the recruits that we're talking to, and building connections with the ones who are new, to us now, and also just they know how we operate and how we do things, and so they're going to be settled a lot faster than I and our family are settled, and that's totally fine. They need to be really comfortable. Then from that standpoint, we've also retained some of the staff who's been here, and that's really helpful for us as well, because they know how we do things within the university setting and what makes the most sense. And so that's been great as well for us, with Melissa Maines, with Jan Whitbeck, and with Rachel Banham, a really familiar name here with the Gophers. Then we've added 2 coaches, or 2 other staff members, I guess I should say, a video director or coordinator of video services, whatever the exact title is. And Tyler was with us at West Virginia, and that film is a really big part of what we do. Not just during the school year, but also in recruiting. So we're downloading film, we're sharing film, we're clipping film. We are doing that for our own players. When we had time in the postseason to be doing workouts, we were grabbing film from other teams, either players that we knew, or either games that our team or the Gophers had played in the past, and comparing different things. And so that the film aspect is really, really big for us. From a recruiting standpoint, we download a lot of film, we're watching it. So to have Tyler, who already knows how we do that, has been incredibly valuable for us. Then we added a position from a creative content standpoint, and Megan is with us. Megan's with us at West Virginia, and one part of what she did is one part of her job, the job that she's doing now, she can actually do at a very high level, because she can focus on that area, where before, as our director of ops, she was doing so many different things, and that at the same time, and a really good job with it. So there's a lot of pieces. We're still looking at or we should have a GA, but I don't know if we can announce that quite yet, but we're really, really close in that scenario. So it's been finding the right people and connecting with the right people is the most important thing. We tell recruits this: you can come and look at Athletes Village, and boy, we have all the bells and whistles, and it is impressive and it is incredible. And bells and whistles are great, and we have the tools and the access and the modalities here to not only develop our young ladies, but also to help them recover to the best of their ability. But at the same time, bells and whistles don't make you happy, and they don't keep you happy. It is all about the people. And so having the right people here is what this is about. And that's what we've spent our time in the last few weeks working on.
Yeah, getting that base right just from the start so you're ready to roll. So you have done a nice job of career progression, right, from Northern Kentucky to South Dakota to West Virginia and now to Minnesota. So you've made the jump a few times. Does that past experience in each one of those jumps help get established? I don't want to say easier because it's never easy, but the transition now that you've been through transitions before?
Well, I think the biggest thing you understand is that all those other things are going to fall into place, and so we keep saying we haven't gotten settled yet, but that's probably because the right place hasn't popped yet. Like we're it's not the right one, or there's a timing in all of this. And so this is just a part that my phrase I use a lot is this too shall pass. We'll get through these challenges and these difficult times. And we'll focus on what really matters at this point in time. So in a way it does because there's past experience of knowing. Now when we've relocated in the past, our kids were younger. Our kids are in college and done with college. And so I think it's, we're at a stage right now where it is really, where we have the time. I have the time personally to really focus on how we need to move forward and build the program, in the first few weeks.
Yeah, and I suppose too, just in the last 5 years, the just stuff has changed anyway, where a move 10 years ago, you could take some stuff, but even as you talk about the staff, I'm guessing some of what you've added as a staff wasn't even maybe available when you moved to South Dakota, right? I mean, in terms of what you needed. Film 15 years ago might have been an intern. And now there's a whole department within a program, right? Well,
it's evolving at all times, and I think what our staff has done a really good job of over the course of the last our coaching staff has been together now going on. I guess this would be year 3 for our whole staff. It's year 7, I think, for Jason and I working together. Year 8, I think it is, for Aaron and I working together. And so what we've done though as a staff is really kind of aligned where each of our skills are best suited, and our staff dynamics and how we go about doing things may be different than a staff that we had at Northern Kentucky or a staff that we had at a different place. So I think we've learned what our groove is and how to stay in sync with each other and how to really work together at a high level. Plus, I think this is really important. We have a lot of fun doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We spend a lot of time together. And so it's important that we enjoy each other's company. We have a lot of fun doing it. And I think that your players have a sense that there's that there's a unity there. And so it's been really important for us, to kind of figure out how to not only work together and work in stride, but also continue to challenge each other too.
Philosophically, if you could, in one sentence, describe how your program, how you want to operate the program philosophically, how would you describe it? Cliff Notes version first, and then we'll go.
Cliff Notes version, I would say 3 words. Yeah. Every moment matters.
Okay.
The next phrase I would use is the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And that's really how our program is at its best, is that when we focus on the most minor details and we keep stacking those, the aggregate of marginal gain, when we keep getting a little bit better in certain areas or a lot of areas, then all of a sudden, boom, it seems like, wow, this just happened. It didn't just happen. It was very intentional. And so those are a couple of the ways I think we would describe what our philosophy is.
And then in terms, as we go deeper into that now, how you coach your team, how I'm trying to think, how demanding is it? Like, well, there'll be times where a player might be like, man, holy cow, this is hard, but it's worth it because at the end you're making them a better player. Or I guess I'm saying, will you be considered a player's coach, or are you more of like this old school, we're going to just work you, or a combo in there?
I would say it's a little bit different than that. I would probably analyze it this way, in that I grew up, I thought I was going to go to college to be a kindergarten teacher. Then I decided I was going to move into the math and science world, and I was going to be a math teacher. And then I got into theoretical math, and I said, I don't even understand this. So let's just stay with real math. I don't need to explain why. Yeah. I just want to solve the problems. So then I moved to biology. So when players come in and they say, I really want to major in this, I'm like, okay, we'll see if that's exactly where you end up. But or if that's really the field you get into when it's all said and done anyway. But in my mind, there's an analytics behind a lot of it. And so I think one of the things that our staff really strives to do is teach our players why we're doing what we're doing. And then I'll ask them a question. The question is, how many timeouts do we get in the game? How many timeouts do we get to call? And they usually say, I don't really know. Is it 3? It's 4.
I bet they don't. Most
they don't,
players don't,
because
right?
they don't really call timeouts all that often. In the women's game, we don't have the use it or lose it timeout in the first half anymore. We can save our timeouts and then advance the ball in the last minute of the game. And so we try to get to the last minute of the game, ideally with 3 timeouts in our pocket, to hold on to that. So what does that mean? That means maybe we're calling 1 timeout a game. So then what has to happen? Then our players, there's a lot of stuff that goes on during the course of the game that our players have to know how to make adjustments to on their own. And so what we try to do is help them learn why we're doing it, and then how to problem solve. So we can coach them from the sideline, but the reality is they know how to fix things and change things and alter things and adjust accordingly, and how to attack in a little bit different way, or how is the other team attacking and how do we counter that, so that they can actually make adjustments during the course of the game. So it's more of teaching them how to coach themselves in a lot of ways.
And are your teams typically, when you'd watch them, and I know you're a former point guard, do you usually have like a point guard who's a coach on the floor too, or is that when you've had success? Or obviously you'd love all 5 of them or 10 or how many you're playing to really have that instinct, but does it help to have 1 or 2 that really you can count on to know what to do and win?
Well, absolutely it does. And those are your performance leaders.
Yep.
And so within our program, we'll have a number of different leaders. And so you have your performance leaders on the court. And those are players that their teammates really look to them to be the ones to have the voice, to when you huddle at a free throw, and you're talking, who has the knowledge base and who knows what should be said at that point in time, and have they been trained? Have we helped them understand what could take place in that huddle to actually make it be a meaningful time when we're together? When we get done with our timeouts and they go out on the court, there's a time that they typically huddle and they have their own little fun and they have their what's being said during those times, or how are they changing, how are they fixing things on the court. So absolutely. But it's interesting because over the course of time, we've had, sometimes those are point guards and sometimes those are post players.
Sure.
So it really depends on the dynamics within your team. And honestly, that's going to be really important for us this year because we'll be a very young team. We have some experienced players, but we don't necessarily have a lot of upperclassmen. And that's okay. So then we just need to we need to figure out who exactly will be that voice.
As you have been able, I know you don't get to spend a lot of time in workouts, but you do. It's more now than it used to be, right? And so take me through what the last 8 weeks has been like and what you see from the current players on the roster.
Well, I would say this. First and foremost, they have been sponges. They're just trying to soak up as much as they possibly can. And what's been fun is for them to watch. We'll watch film in the practice, open the doors up, watch the TV and show a couple clips, then go out, do the drill, then come back and show the next few clips, then go do that drill, come back the next day, show film from that practice. Look at what we did. And then when we first started, we are explaining the why behind what we are doing and how that translates into how we become more efficient. Again, the number system, the analytics of it, that it's not always A squared plus B squared equals C squared, but there are times in the game that you have to figure out how to make adjustments. And so as they're watching the film, it's been interesting because the NCAA tournament was going on still during that time period, and they'd come back after watching games and kind of analyze different parts of the game. Well, they should have done this, they should have done that, or we were working on that in practice, so that we didn't have that takeoff travel, we don't get sped up, or whatever the case is. So it was absolutely incredible. It was 5.5 weeks of so much fun being with our players and really helping them understand why we're doing the things that now to teach them. Now they have, I think it's probably 6 weeks where we are not together working out before we begin again in June. How can they take some of those details and continue to work on their games? So again, that's important, right? So that when you leave that postseason period, how do you actually continue to work on your own to get better? How do you continue to grow as an individual, whether that is in an actual skill of shooting it or handling it better, or whether it's in how to take care of the ball better? And you're thinking, well, you're 1-on-0. What does that really look like? Well, here's some drills that can help with some footwork that alleviate takeoff travels. And if we can alleviate takeoff travels in the game, all of a sudden we may gain 3 more possessions or 2 more possessions in the game. So working on or scoring around the rim, how do we become more efficient? How do I work on that now, even though I'm not with coaches? What is something that I heard over and over and over again? And so that's why we keep it really, really simple so that they can replicate it to the best of their ability when they're not with us.
Skill-wise, what was your assessment of the current players on the roster?
Great question. I think a very skilled group. And I really believe that a group where, because they want something so badly, they really want to be good, and that's important. Mm-hmm. That desire is immensely important in continuing to grow and build and have success. Because they want to have success, they are willing to do the things on their own to work on their games. And so I think we're pretty skilled. I do. Mm-hmm. Do I think that overall every player has all the skills that they need? No, not even close. And nor will they by the time that we start. They're going to continue, and this is what's been really fun for our teams in the past and will be fun here, is to watch how our players continue to grow their games. And maybe probably the easiest one to look at is, how does someone who maybe wasn't as comfortable shooting it from the arc become more comfortable? And what I told them is there's a progression that you go through as a shooter. One, you have to start by shooting outside of practice on your own and you're missing. Then you start making them when you're shooting on your own. Then you get into practice, and unfortunately, when you start in practice shooting more shots and hunting more shots and being aggressive, you miss them.
Yeah.
But if you stop there because you're missing shots and you're saying, oh, my bad, I missed shots, if you're stopping there, then you don't get to the next step. And the next step is then you're in practice, you start making shots. Then the next step is you start taking them in games. And unfortunately, a lot of times you don't make them right away. Then you grow to where it all kind of comes full circle. And so what we've tried to encourage, our young ladies, is that there's a progression. And so you can't, right now, it's not November 8th. It's not opening day for us at this point in time. We're back in at the end of March and in April. This is time to grow. This is time to be okay with being uncomfortable. And so I do think that we are skilled. I do believe that. I think we've got a long ways to go yet to where we can even kind of come close to tapping all of our ability. Does
your experience as a coach then help? Because certainly you'd love it to be linear, where a player starts here and then it goes right here, and by November 8th they're great. But there's going to be,
absolutely,
as you mentioned, some dips. So all of a sudden you're shooting and making them on your own, and now with a hand in the face in practice, maybe it's a step back. With your experience now, knowing that, hey, there's some patience here, because I'm sure in an ideal world you'd love it just to skyrocket, but knowing that, okay, I see this. I see what's happening here, and we're getting. When do you know that? Okay, yeah, these guys, they're on the right track here, even if they're not where we want them to be yet.
Well, I think we're on the right track. I believe that. I've watched that. I've witnessed it, and sent them actually, a video of kind of our highlights from the postseason when we had some pretty good footage of doing that. And again, we're film junkies. We watch all those things, but for them to see their games continuing to grow, and that's what's been fun about showing film within the practice setting, and they can see, and then they can stop it. And I'll say, "What do you think of this?" Yeah, we got to sit to pass. That's one of our phrases. You got to get to 2 feet and then get in balance, and then or pass with their outside hand. I didn't catch a shoot. I didn't lift the ball that time, and so they can watch it and identify. How did we do it? Taking our time at the rim. Oh, actually pretty good. I agree. That was pretty good. This isn't a quiz that things aren't how they're supposed to be. And so it was really fun during that time. I kind of miss it, honestly, right now. But the break is important, too, because it's allowed us to focus on other areas within our program that are also really important.
Give me a second quick here to talk about Affinity Plus. It's your local credit union, proudly serving Minnesota since 1930. As a current Gopher student, or if you're a proud Gopher alum, you are eligible to join a financial that wants to build a meaningful banking relationship with you and put you first. You can meet with a local employee at any of their branches statewide, including right off campus in Minneapolis. To learn more or find another way to connect, visit affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. That's affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. We thank them for their support of the Go Gopher podcast. I know when Gopher fans look at last year, and I suppose you have watched, I'm sure, most of the games just to see kind of what unfolded. One of the big issues certainly was, well, first of all, you play 4 freshmen in a league like the Big Ten, particularly this year when it was so good. It's hard, right? It's a hard league. There were a lot of turnovers. And I'm sure much of that is, well, they're young, right? They're learning for the first time. But are there also ways, you hope they improve just because they're getting older, but are there also ways that you can coach a team to not turn it over 20 times?
Absolutely.
What are some ways?
When we got to West Virginia a year ago, we inherited a team that had averaged about 17 turnovers a game. After one season together, we were down to about 13, just over 13 a game. The year before that at South Dakota, our team actually finished second in the country in fewest turnovers. And so what is it that we do? Well, we look at how are those turnovers, how are they caused? Mm-hmm. One could be takeoff trouble. So then let's work on when we square up, even if it's a shooting drill, whether it's a passing drill, maybe it's a ball handling drill, maybe it's a drill to work on scoring at the rim, driving drill. But we're going to work on the takeoff because that's one way to eliminate some turnovers. Then we're going to look at, when we penetrate or when we're passing it, are we in balance? Are we passing with our outside hand? Are we getting to 2 feet before we make decisions? Are we checking our passes? Are we sealing if we're passing inside of the post? Are we sealing well? Are we seeing those kids at the right time? Are we passing away from the defense? And how do we look at all those types of things and then break it down? But then at the same time, then we speed them back up, and then we compete. And when we compete, we have a drill that we do. It's a 4-on-4 drill. And in our 4-on-4 drill, you get 9 possessions. Okay, in your 9 possessions, you have to score at least 4 out of 9 times. So that's about 44%, something around that number. We'd like to actually get up to 5 or 6 times out of 9. But typically, if we don't give our players an advantage in that can be kind of challenging to do that all the time. So 4 out of 9 is the goal. Out of those 9 possessions, we're only allowed to turn it over 1 time. Why? Well, if there are, in the game of basketball, a high possession game would be 81 possessions in a game. Usually it's the high 60s into 70s. But let's say it's 81 possessions in the game. Well, if you have 9 possessions, 81 divided by 9 is 9. So if we want to turn the ball over, and ideally for us, we want to turn it over 12 or less, and ideally get that number down to 11 or less times a game, we need to find a way to chart that and drill that. So the way we do that is say, okay, we're allowed 1 turnover only in this drill. That's it. And so then what it does over the course of time is it makes players very aware within that possession. I have got to value the basketball because we've already turned it over 1 time, and we have 4 possessions left. Now, we still have to score, so we can't just be passive and just take care of the ball. We have to do both. Now, is it a perfect system? No, but for whatever reason, over the course of time, it has helped us really understand the value of the basketball. That's just one example. Sure. But in our practices, we will have segments where the value, we have to value the basketball. And if we don't, then we have to find a way to have accountability. And what is that accountability? Well, for us in this drill, it is run all the way from the baseline to the first free throw line and back. So it's not as if it's a really tough punishment, if you will, but there's an accountability piece. There's an awareness piece.
Yeah, it's like having the rubber band on the wrist, right? It's not going to kill you, but you understand that it's not right. So what is the fine line, too, between playing smart, and I don't want to say risk adverse because you do want to minimize risk, but also you can't play scared, right? You can't just hold it. So where is that fine line of free-flowing offense, okay, we know what we're doing, without just being so willy-nilly the ball's going to the other team a lot?
Well, and I think that's for us. It's that aggressive mindset. Yeah. And so our players every time they have the ball, we want them to catch to shoot. It doesn't mean catch and shoot every time, but catch and be a threat. Yep. If you are a threat every single time, you've got that aggressiveness. But then for us, so we're constantly encouraging our players to be really, really aggressive. At the same time, there is that balance with we need to also be smart and efficient. We need to take care of the basketball. And so our big thing is possession. We need possession and we need shots. Yeah. So we get shots on 8 out of 9 possessions. Now we need aggressiveness within that because we still have to be able to score. That's where that number comes, the next number comes. At the same time, you're not going to necessarily make 4 out of 9 all the time. So now you're working on rebounding, offensive rebounding, valuing. But, I think for us, it's a matter of understanding possession of the basketball. Really, what's that phrase? You can't rebounded turnover.
Yeah, right.
So we can be a great offensive rebounding team, but we need to actually get shots to do that. And so that means sometimes if the pass isn't perfect, that's okay. One of our big tenets within our program is this mindset of find a way. And we talk a lot about toughness and togetherness. So if if I'm passing you the ball, Mike, you better come up with it.
Yeah.
Right? It's between the two of us.
Yeah.
I have to deliver it. You've got to come up with it. And if I throw a not very good pass to you and it gets deflected, then one of the two of us had better save the possession. If that means we have to tip it, dive on the floor, do whatever we have to do to get possession of the basketball, retain possession of the basketball, sometimes the most fun possessions in the game of basketball are the ones that are not nearly how you drew it up. It's a deflected pass and then it gets tipped again and then someone dives and then tips it to the next kid and then you lay it in.
Yeah.
And as a coach, you always think to yourself, that's exactly how we drew that up.
No problem, right.
And so I think it's a mentality of we're going to stay with plays longer than our opponents, even if it's not exactly how it's drawn up. Because and the fun of our offense is that it's not an A to B to C offense. It is, okay, we're attacking to score. Or we're hunting shots. We're being aggressive. We are catching to be a threat. And so while we're doing that, then one of the things I asked our players the other day when we were working out yet is, okay, so a lot of teams when they get sped up, okay, so they get an offensive rebound and now they're doubled, or they get the ball on the block and now they're doubled, or a team just double teams a ball screen, or they jump a passing lane, or whatever the case is. They try to speed their opponents up. At that point in time, when we learn to attack and be in control, we can take advantage of that.
Sure.
Now we can use that to our advantage and get an easier shot, ideally, that risk-reward part, as long as we attack and we're in control. At the same time, sometimes when you're really good defensively, you can work to speed a team up. They can get out of that pickle, if you will, out of that traffic area, get the ball out, but still not get a good shot. So then I asked him, so now how do we go about now we need to create an advantage. We had an advantage and we didn't get a shot out of it. So now what's the next thing we can do to create an advantage in the game of basketball? And they looked at me and finally, I think it was Maggie, looked and said, you can screen to gain an advantage. Exactly. That's the next part. And so teaching them, instead of in the game offensively, the game of basketball, spacing is really important. There are a lot of coaches who say spacing's, the number one key. Well, that's great, but if you don't have movement, then the spacing may not provide you enough of an advantage to be able to score. When you have great movement, you don't always have great spacing. When you have great spacing, you don't have great movement. So how do you work to put them together? And that's kind of an ebb and a flow. And sometimes it looks a little bit better than others. And sometimes you have to adjust to how different teams defend, those type of things. And so teaching our players why. Mm-hmm. And so the very next possession, Mallory, actually, we got out of that double team area, kicked it out, didn't get a shot. And then Mallory immediately went into screening action. I thought, man,
they're getting
it. They get it fast. Yeah. And so she understood the why. Rather than coaches saying, hey, now's when you have to go screen, she understood the why and went ahead and did it. And so I think just helping our players understand how do you attack, but be in control, then how do you gain another advantage? What does that look like? Is it a ball screen? Is it a different type of screen, a back screen, a shuffle screen, a flare screen? What is it? A double screen? So teaching our players those type of things really helps them recognize why. Then where are your gaps within it? And where are your openings? And then how do you attack those different openings within in the game? So is it baseline? Is it a middle drive? Is it a rail drive? What does it look like? So and again, they're sponges, so it's been really fun.
In football, that would be called like off-schedule plays, like when the play's called, he's back, it breaks down, then he scrambles and guys are flying around. And that's, in recent times, the analytics have indicated teams that are really good at off-schedule plays end up winning more than teams that can't get to that point. And it sounds like that's little
right.
like that. Part of why I bring that up with football is, have you gotten a chance to talk or spend any time with PJ Fleck yet?
I have a little bit.
Yeah, because as we're talking here, and this is our first extended time, you remind me a little of, because he's always talking about the why. We're teaching the why, film study. He wanted to be a sixth grade social studies teacher. In fact, I think he actually had that job for a little bit. He actually was teaching sixth grade. So you're kindergarten, he's sixth grade. So there is a lot of similarities. than what you guys are talking about, just with and I suppose that just is in general terms, no matter the sport, there's a certain culture, philosophy that when it fits, it fits.
Right. Well, I actually watched them practice a few weekends ago, and it was fascinating to me. And I can see the connection between a lot of things that we teach. They're the details, and I'm watching their practice run like a well-oiled machine, and yet I get so easily distracted, and there was so much going on that I was just in awe of how efficient they are within their time, and actually talked to a number of the people who weren't involved in practice at the time about how do they go about doing this, and why are they doing that right now, and what does this exactly look like? So that was really fun for me to be a part of watching that.
Yeah, he had the practice. Even if you know football and you go to practice, you can be confused by it. It's organized. It's not confusing at all for them. It's like organized chaos, but it's a similar thing to what you're talking about. He wants to put the players in a position that they're going to have to learn, and then they can show them film later. Well, here's what happened, and one of the things he always says is failing is growth. So they want them to make mistakes, so they understand. Okay, this is the limit to which I can push to make a play right, and that's where I got to stop. As he says, put the hand on the stove. We won't do that again, and move on. So I see some similarities there.
I believe that there probably are. We use the phrase, there's no growth in the comfort zone. So if we're really comfortable doing what we're doing, then we're not growing.
Yeah.
But there's no comfort in the growth zone. And that's really challenging too. So being okay with being uncomfortable is really a hard concept. It really is. But watching our players gravitate to that and say, wow, I'm really learning, I'm growing, I'm getting better right now. This is an awful lot of fun. Okay, great. Because now we're going to work on the next thing that we're not very good at. And then we're not going to be, when we will have recruits come watch us practice, I always tell them, we're not going to change what we are and who we are because you're here. We're not. We're going to get better today. And a lot of times if they come the first day that we are working on maybe getting doubled in the post, let's say, and they watch it, we're working on a skill because not many players are really good at it, and maybe we're not very good at it. And I remember a very specific example of a day we were working on that at South Dakota, and we had our number one recruit there. And the drill we were doing that day, we looked awful at, just terrible because we weren't very good. But then the next day we were a lot better. And then by day 3 of doing it, we were really good. And then we moved on to the next rule or next aspect that we weren't very good at. And then we kind of revert a little bit. And so it's important for us as we get into scheduling to try to give ourselves those 2 to 3 days of practicing different skills against different teams or looks that we believe they're going to give us to help us feel as comfortable as possible, especially with a young team.
Yeah, for sure. We got a little bit of time left here, but I want to hit on a few other things. You mentioned that what you're going through now is the people, getting people around you, and relationships clearly are important. I want to ask you about the newcomers. Some will be coming here in the summer. Some will be coming here in the fall, or I guess, the fall semester. But you were able to get some players that you had previous relationships with. So again, going back to that importance of those relationships. Tell us about first of all the timeline, because I don't follow every minute, every day of what's going on. So the timeline of the newcomers and what they can mean to the program when they do step foot on campus.
We had a few young ladies who were committed and signed, and all except one of them have remained committed and signed, which is incredible. So that's been great. So they're really excited to be a part of Minnesota women's basketball and a part of our university. So that has been great. Had a chance to talk to them on a few different occasions, ones who are closer, had a chance to meet them face to face, and that was really, really special. And sometimes even with their families. And so that's been really fun for me and for our staff. At the same time, then we also were looking to add a few players to our roster yet. And so in going through that process, we do have two freshmen who were going to play for us at West Virginia, both from Wisconsin, who have now committed and signed. So now we can talk about that. I had to go through that in my mind, make sure that we were all clear. Everything's been good there. And then we also added a young lady out of the transfer portal as well. And so it's been, I think ultimately for us, it's like we talked about earlier, it's more important for us to do it well and to do it right than to do it as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a process of really trying to not only build relationships with our young ladies here, but also help grow our program with players that we believe complement the players that we have currently on our roster to a high level.
Ideally, if your teams play exactly how you want, how is that going to look on the court?
Yeah, fast and tough. I think this was really interesting. I was coaching at Northern Kentucky at the time, and I was coaching at Florida Gulf Coast. And after the game, one of the reporters asked me a question. And then he answered the question for me. And so I thought, okay, that was a great question. Yeah. He said, so when I watch your team, I would say that versatility and toughness are really important for you. Is that how you go out? Do you go out and recruit versatility and toughness? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. The answer is yes. Do you want me to elaborate any more on that? But I think those are probably two phrases that you hear about our players and our teams over the course of time, is that there's a toughness, and then there's a versatility piece. And then I think the part that is really the most exciting is that there is our players play, and ideally with a great deal of joy and fun. It's important that loving the process is not always easy, but when you see growth and you understand why, it usually becomes a little bit easier. But also, our goal as coaches, and mine certainly as our coaches, to help us have fun doing what we're doing. I really believe that if our young ladies, and they're going to work their tails off. That's going to happen. But when they work their tails off and they're having fun doing it, then watch out. Then we could do some pretty special things. And that what does that timeline look like? I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I really believe in this group of young ladies, and I think that they are going to give us everything that they have, and now we're going to have to continue to help them grow along their path.
You mentioned two of the players are coming from Wisconsin, which is your home state. You had family members at your opening introductory news conference here. How neat has that been? I know you've been busy, but also to kind of be back in the upper Midwest area. Minnesota and Wisconsin, great big rivalry. We hate each other, but there's so many. I mean, other than the imaginary state line, there's so much similarity between the two states in terms of how people, are generally good-natured, good people, what have you. So how has that been to be back in the Midwest and coaching again? Obviously, you're at South Dakota, which also is, kind of in that same boat.
Well, it's been really special, very honestly, because people, what I didn't realize is how many not former players or a player's mom who now moved here. Their families are here. Ham on campus. I work on campus. Do you want to go have coffee? Hey, Dawn, you recruited me, but I didn't pick your school, but I now live here and I can help you. I'm like, really? That's really awesome. That was 25 years ago. Actually, it's probably longer than that, but we'll just stay with 25. So that was pretty neat. I was able, I think it was during the Final Four. A lot of coaches go to the Final Four. I did not go to the Final Four this year because I wanted to stay and work with our players. But then on that Friday when we were done, then I was able to actually drive to Wisconsin and see my family for the first time in a really long time. And so that was really special to be able to do that. So our son graduated from college, and having him have that opportunity at South Dakota and to go pick all his stuff up and move him and just load it up. And the best part was we had a number of people that I'm like, are you coming to Minneapolis anytime soon? Can we put this in the back of your vehicle? Can you bring it? And they said, sure, absolutely. Now, granted, they were our coaches, and so they're all right here, so that was pretty special.
That is neat. And is he going to play again?
He is. I think he's deciding what his next step is, and so I think he's pretty close. Can't quite disclose exactly what I think is going to be next, but he was
AJ.
AJ, right?
He was at South Dakota.
He was at South Dakota, and he actually had the worst knee injury I've ever seen in college basketball. So a little bit like a Teddy Bridgewater type of an injury. He dislocated his entire knee, and very, very fortunate. He didn't have any nerve damage or vascular damage. There was actually an orthopedic surgeon at the game, courtside. It was just an incredible blessing. That surgeon actually wasn't supposed to be at the game, put his knee right back in, and so tore his ACL, MCL, LCL, and hamstring. His PCL was intact, and so came back. I think it was about 16 months later. and is loving basketball, and that was quite a journey. So I think for him, to continue to play as long as possible is something he would love to do. Then I'm trying to talk him out of it, but he wants to get into coaching.
Does he?
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk him out of it.
Family business,
That's right.
And does he play, his style kind of fit that toughness, that versatility you talk about?
Yeah, I think our daughter is a point guard, our son is a point guard, and I think they both play with a great deal of toughness, although I'm telling our son most of the time you have to rebound more, but I think he does. He plays with a little bit of toughness, and I think he showed a great deal of toughness to come back from, an extensive injury like he had, and so it was, and when I was there when it happened, and I had no idea that it was what it was. I'd heard of a dislocated kneecap. I thought, this isn't going to be that bad. No, it was a lot worse than that.
Wow. Well, we'll keep an eye on him. And where's your daughter? Remind me.
She's at Grand Valley State. They actually played. They won their conference this year. It's a Division II program. They won their conference, and then they actually went on to the Sweet 16, and they lost to Ashland University. Ashland went on then to win the national championship this year. So in Division II,
Duluth, I think,
they beat
right?
Duluth.
Yeah.
So yes, Minnesota Duluth, and actually, National Player of the Year, Brooke Olson. And so it's kind of a neat thing.
Yeah. And you coached there, right, as an assistant at Grand Valley?
Actually a head coach. So I was a head coach at Grand Valley.
That's right.
The neat part of basketball and athletics, our daughter was born and then when I was coaching at Grand Valley State, she was in practice at 3 days old, and that was my first season as a head coach, and she was born in January. Yeah, that's great timing, isn't it? Find a way. I guess we found a way. Yeah. And then she, 18 years later, she returned there and started her college career, and started as 18 years later in playing actually for the coach that I coached with at Grand Valley, and Mike Williams. So she gets to play for a very, very dear friend and someone that I just have an incredible amount of respect for. So she's really, really fortunate.
So she was in the gym at 3 days old.
She was.
And now she's playing there. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Your Wisconsin background, you grew up in rural Wisconsin,
I did.
Right?
West Bend.
On a farm?
I did.
So how do you think that shaped how you became who you are?
Well, I think a lot of it is, my parents both worked full time, and having the farm was a dream of theirs. And so farming, which is not a part-time business, in case you're not aware, was a full-time job on top of their full-time jobs. And so I think the first thing that it really taught was just a sense of work ethic. And that's something that I have my parents to thank to this day for that. And I think understanding, one of the things that I enjoy the peacefulness of being back, and as crazy as this sounds, like just being on the farm, there's a piece to that. And I think certainly it's important. We tell our players, one of the things that I think has really transformed college athletics in the last few years even is the importance of recovery. And so learning how to recover. Well, the same thing is true, I think, certainly for coaches. We work a lot of hours. We also need to find time to recharge, and whatever that way is. And there are certainly different ways for every person to do that, but it is a great way when you're there and it's peaceful to have a chance to recharge a little bit.
And farming in general is that way, right? You work, and I'm just thinking, maybe stereotypically, but you work, and then typically a farmer would go fish or go hunt, or plant a separate garden and do gardening as a hobby, which is different than the cornfields or what have you. So there's probably some comparison in that regard too.
There absolutely is. And my parents weren't really good at going on vacations or taking time away. And then, my husband's been really good at, over the course of time, teaching me it was okay. Yeah. It's okay to give yourself a break and do those type of things. And, but I remember our one family vacation, and we had other times that we were away. One of the things that I thought my mom's family did a really good job of is every Sunday, the kids were together and the grandkids were together, and we'd play 500. Throw the ball, hit the ball, whatever the case was, played kickball, those type of things. And so it was just a time that everyone was together as much as possible.
Did you, when you were growing up as an athlete, who were role models? Right.
Well, my favorite, and my son, AJ, and I actually just got into a little debate about this. Debate's a good word, not an argument, debate about this. But my favorite player to watch was when in high school and into college was actually Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
And why? Because he did everything. He was a point forward when that wasn't. Now the game is so much more versatile. So that's what he's telling me. Mom, he couldn't do this, and Mom, he couldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? He was as versatile a player as there was at the time. And what I loved about him is that regardless of what his team needed, he was willing to do it, and he had that big smile.
He was a joy to watch.
He was a joy to watch, and so I really enjoyed watching him. And when I grew up, playing in high school and college, we didn't have the professional leagues in women's basketball. Right. So I didn't have the same role models now that young girls do growing up.
Even college women's games weren't like what they are now. 10 million people watched the championship a couple of months ago or whatever, right? I mean,
no, it was a big deal. I remember coaching at Wisconsin, and when I was at Wisconsin, we had a game. It was a January 3rd or January 6th game, and it was on CBS. And women's games were not on CBS. And we played Georgia, and Georgia hit a 3 to send it into overtime. Actually, we fouled the kid. She didn't make the 3. We fouled the kid, and they went into overtime, and then we ended up winning. And it was just amazing how different it was back at that day and age. So going to college basketball games and watching college basketball games really wasn't anywhere near what it is now.
Remember, Magic, you remember this, when he was a rookie, Kareem gets hurt in the finals, right, against the Sixers. He played center.
He played center.
And he was doing hook shots just like Kareem, and then they win the title. I think that was 1980, but yeah, he was a guy for sure to emulate. How cool is it now, though, that women you're coaching it's great. I'm sure Steph Curry can inspire girls as much as boys, but that there are women and girls out there. And here, even in this city now, you've got maybe the best over the past decade, WNBA franchise, great coach, great players, Maya Moore, Lindsay, all these players won it. Final Four was here a couple of years ago in this community and sold out. Well, they sell out usually anyway, but this is a community that is pretty supportive, I think.
It's incredibly supportive.
Sports, right?
It is, and I really believe we need to do a great job as a program, as a women's basketball program, of reaching out and connecting to groups within our community and building that connection with them. And those are things that actually during this time when we're not doing workouts with our players, we are actually looking at how to try to build some of those relationships. But again, it's more important to do it well than to do it fast or do it quickly. And so as we go through this and building our community service, it's going to be important for us, for our player standpoint, because to whom much is given, much is expected. And we have incredible opportunities, but we also have incredible gifts. We're given a lot here at the University of Minnesota. And so it's important that we give back. At the same time, what happens then is that more people become connected to our players. And when they become connected to our players, it becomes really special to come out and watch them. And so it helps kind of grow both our young ladies and our fan base, I believe.
Yeah, and when those young girls, 10 years old, 12 years old, come to the barn to watch a game, right, and if they're kind of waiting there afterwards just to even get a high five or something, boom, that can, I'm not going to get too dramatic and say it changed someone's life, but it can certainly change trajectory if that's who I want to pay attention to and emulate.
Well, I have a really quick story for you. Yeah. So I was coaching at South Dakota at the time, and we had a little program at South Dakota, and it was Coach P's Pack because we were the Coyotes, so it was the Pack, right? And so we don't have a group name yet, but it's a group for girls in grades 3 through 8, and we also have to go through the compliance aspect and get it approved here, and haven't done that yet. But we're thinking about it at this point in time. So we had a group there, and what was neat about it is that we did a clinic with the girls, and they got autographs afterwards, and then they could come back to games. There were maybe 1 or 2 special games a year, and they could be on the floor and high-five the players, and that was awesome. And then our players actually would send letters to the girls. And so they would put their letter up on the wall.
Yeah.
I got a letter today from Mara Braun.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine that? And so they can hang it up, and there's someone they can name it. Well, anyway, so we were doing this at South Dakota, and we had just beaten. It was a first time, I believe, in our conference history that both South Dakota and South Dakota State were ranked, and we played against each other. It was early in January. It was a packed house, and we win in double overtime.
Oh, man.
It was a great game. And after the game, there was a mother who came up and she was in tears and she just was like, that was so great. And I'm thinking, yeah, that was pretty special. That was a fun game. And she's like, no. My daughter is doing really well in her classes for the first time. And she had some learning disabilities. She said, but because she wanted to come see and she named the players on our team and they've encouraged her to do well in her classes, this is the first time that she's really doing what she needs to do. But again, she had to get help because she had some learning challenges to do that. But to the mother, to see her daughter be excited and try to emulate our players in our program, and I thought, yeah, that's a lot bigger win than us winning a basketball game. There's no doubt that that's a lot more important than what this is, but the win wasn't bad either.
Yeah, for sure. And so it can be life-changing for sure. It can be. Yeah. Well, hey, we've kept you over what we said, but it was great stuff. We appreciate it. We will certainly have you on again as the season gets closer, and I know that enjoy the Minnesota summer when you can get out and when you get a little free time.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It is episode number 70.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from and getting to know better the new Gopher women's basketball coach, Dawn Plitzuweit. We appreciate her spending some time with us during a very busy offseason. We'll certainly have Dawn back on the podcast as we get closer to basketball season. The Go Gopher Podcast episode 70 is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. We're also partnered with Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, a locally member-owned full-service financial invested in you. You can learn more at affinityplus.org/GoGophers. They also have a top-ranked mobile app you can check out. We're also sponsored by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and right now click the subscribe button to the Go Gopher Podcast. It's free to subscribe and free to listen at any time. And please be sure to share the link to the podcast with others so they can subscribe and listen as well. We'll talk again next week.